Alrighty, folks, it is my great pleasure to bring to our school community the one and only Mr. Brian Adamson. Brian, how you doing, buddy?
I am doing fantastic, Mike. Thanks for the invite. I can't wait to see where this goes today.
There you go. Like always, Brian, we have no idea what we're doing together. We just get on the phone or get on the call and have a good old time. Uh,
Yeah.
Folks, like all of our sessions inside school, you can feel free to ask Brian or myself questions. You could do that one of two ways. If you're comfortable, you can raise your hand and just go down to the bottom of the screen. There is a react button. At least on my screen, it looks like a heart. You could raise your hand there. Or if you are more comfortable being typing in a question, you could go to the chat button and just type in a question there. Brian and I will riff for 20, 25 minutes. That is the plan. But again, we try to do this for you. So if you have any questions for Brian or myself, the first person that puts it in gets their questions. I go in the order they are received. So, Brian, we are doing an education series where you try to educate this heathen on what the Bible holds for us. So, you have a passage or two you want to riff on?
Yeah, I think with it being the first of the year, right, fastly approaching, that it's only timely that we speak into kind of the process of people resetting themselves, starting new things. Um, and yesterday there was a sermon that I heard that, in my estimation, spoke directly to this. Okay.
Okay.
And I think it'd be super helpful for everybody in the school community and whoever else gets to watch this video. And so the passage is Mark 2:22. Okay. The book of Mark 2:22. And it says, "And no one puts new wine into old wineskins, for the wine would burst the wineskins, and the wine and the skins would be both lost. New wine calls for new wineskins." Right. And so I don't know who's here that are wine drinkers, or just understands the fermentation process of wine, right? But if you put new wine into old wineskins, the old wineskins are already kind of dried out. They're not as susceptible to breathe, right? As the gases in the wine expands and contracts. And so why is this applicable to the start of the new year and new goals, all the rest of it? Well, it's because you don't hit new goals by setting new goals. You hit new goals by getting rid of old habits,
Hmm.
right? And so this illustration of, putting new wine in old wineskins, it's not going to work. And so if you don't create new capacity for these new goals and you put these new goals into your old habits, by default, history will repeat itself. The new goals are going to break. That's why people don't sustain past February, right? Because you haven't created any new habits for the new goals. So you're trying to put new wine in old wineskins.
That is crazy to think about. Again, this is something I've never read. I've admitted many times never read the Bible. To think about this, I don't know, I'll call it an analogy. I don't know if that's correct.
Oh, it's a parable. So that's you
Parable.
spot on. Yeah.
Okay, think about this parable. Um, because I too am thinking about 2025, not only for myself but also for the people that are in my aura, which I'm going to say is tens of thousands. I don't know if that's true, but I'm going to say it regardless. That's a lot of people, and we've been helping people actively for almost a decade and casually for 2 decades. So I've seen a lot. I've led teams. I've taken products from 0 to 100 million 3 different times, and you don't do that without really changing. Like, if you want to go from 10 million to 15 million, all you got to do is what you were doing better. But if you want to go from 10 million to 100 million, you basically got to throw away what you were doing and do new stuff. Right. So I think about everybody looking at 2025, and I think 2025 is going to be a hard year for a lot of people. But if you take on the challenge, and whatever that challenge is for you, financial, health, relationship, faith, whatever, one of the things that I have come to realize, and it's embarrassing to admit this at 52. I wish I knew this at 42 or 32 or 22, or frankly, 12. If you want to do something new, you got to get around people that are already doing it. It is so it is so obvious to me now. Like, I'm on this health journey, right? 2025 goal is to see how crazy healthy I can get by doing all kinds of things, like a 3-day fast. I've never even thought about doing a 3-day fast, but hey, the doctor said, so that's what Zuber's going to do. So if I'm going to do this, I got to get around other healthy people doing healthy habits and stop, eating cake and ice cream and pizza all the time. Um, a lot of people we follow want to be on a financial health journey. So get around other people going that direction. That's why this school community exists. That's been my vision for the school community, is if I can provide a platform where I attract go-givers, Brian Adamson, with other go-givers like the financial firefighter here, or others who are willing to give some of their time, not paid. There ain't nobody on this being paid to be here, but they feel compelled to share because they get better. And it can become this community. It's like, that's a mission worth doing, Brian. That's just, I wish I knew it earlier, man. It's disappointing it took 52 years.
Well, you got 52 more to go, right? I
There you
mean,
go. I'm
all we
halfway
could do
there.
is the best. All we could do is the best in the present, and hope that there's an extended future for us. You know what I mean? Because it it's so alarming to me, to your point, Mike, that we always think every year to start something new, but we never think about the things that we need to stop doing, though. And, to your point, let's just say that fitness is your thing, right? You're going on this health kick this year. And while going to the gym is an amazing start, but if you don't eliminate that midnight snack, it's not going to be as effective. So this is what I mean by putting new wine in the old wineskins. You have to eliminate some of the old habits in order for the new ones to really hold fast and be sustainable. If you want a better marriage, then you're going to have to create capacity. You're going to have to create margin to invest more time in that, right? Because if you look at your life as an investment portfolio, right? And people always seeking balance, and that's just a farce, in my opinion. But when you look at your life as a investment portfolio, you have certain allocations for your fitness. You've got certain allocations for your spiritual. You got certain allocation for your family, certain allocation for your marriage, for your relationships, for your business, etc. And while many people seek balance, what they really just need to seek is the proper allocations based on what's going on in this economy called their life. So there's going to be certain seasons where if you're trying to double your business, then that part is going to open up for you in terms of that investment, right? Which means that the other investments are going to have um to get smaller, right? For lack of better terms.
Yeah.
Where there's going to be other times where if you want your marriage to grow, then you're going to have to scale back on your, because the 24 hours is the same 24
It's
hours.
just,
Like the capacity is the capacity. So you
yeah.
have to be able to take from somewhere in order to invest that somewhere else that you deem to be more important in this economy called your life during that point in time. And so if we just look at that, then we have to get to a place where we understand we just can't keep adding stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's only so much capacity. And the reason why it's not sustainable is because you haven't created. See, the way that God set this whole thing up, right? Is he created the capacity before he provided the content. He always give the ability before the assignment because he's a God of order. So when you look at, he created, the first thing it tells you in the Bible is that God created the heaven and the earth and everything in it. Well, he created the capacity first. He created the heavens and the earth. Then he put the creation into the thing. He put the creatures into the creation, right? So when you look at that, that's a success formula. Us be no different. We have to create the capacity of the place that we want to add the new content.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's so much in there. We do have something that we want to just, Brian, I'll come back to you in a minute. We have something going on at the Vegas event. Old Guy REI has created a T-shirt that he is going to be selling at the event and raising money for the Blind Center. This is not a profit center. This is an ORAT shirt that Mark and Trade Better are showing. So yeah,
Beautiful, beautiful,
found my tribe. Woohoo! I have those
beautiful.
as well, but they're in Vegas. I don't have one here in Mountain View, so I'll be rocking that as well. This is what I mean by the community. Again, think about this, right? Old guy REI leads the first mastermind in the school community. Now there are five
Hmm.
of them, so he leads by example. And he was so motivated by a simple giveaway we had last year. He reached out to me and said, "Hey, I want to design a shirt. I want to sell it, and I'm going to give all the money to the Blind Center." Talk about go giver, just salt of the earth, individual. Frank, I don't know if Frank's on, but hopefully Frank sees this. He's one of a kind. So shout out
That's
Frank.
beautiful, beautiful.
And there's a link there if you want to go to PayPal and pick it up, folks. I think he only made 100. I think he only made 100. So go get those. Uh, Brian, I'm going to go back to you again, folks. Remember, raise your hand, put in comments. We are here for you. Otherwise, Brian and I are boys. We'll just talk. So, might as well get your questions in. I want to go back to
And,
something
and,
you've heard
and,
me.
and Mike, and the only
Yeah.
bad question is the one you don't ask. That's the
Yes.
only bad one, just so y'all know.
Yeah. Brian and I are here for you, right? Brian said yes to this. We normally talk for a half hour. He's given us an hour out of his busy day. I bring to you Millionaires Inside School because I want you to ask them questions. I want you to know how great these people are. So go for that. Brian, you've heard me say this a lot. It always has felt harsh to me when I say it, but I say it because I want it to be harsh. I want people to kind of go, ooh, like, sometimes that's how you get people to react is you got to
Hmm.
get them to pull back. And I talk about firing your friends. And if we're talking about new wine and old skins, you I don't know someone who can't change something in their life meaningful, like a health journey, a financial journey, a relationship journey, a spiritual journey, whatever, without sometimes having to, I call it fire your friends, you call it change or whatever the heck you want to call it.
Hmm.
But that is a critical component. If you are not willing to get new skins, why freaking bother? Nothing's going to change.
Yeah, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Mike. Two things to that. One, what you tune into, you turn into, right? What we consume eventually consumes us. So if the top five people in your phone that you speak with most frequent, text with most frequent, are not aligned, at least in the direction of life, y'all don't have to share the same interests, but you have to share the same vision in terms of direction, then the chances of you reaching that destiny in the vehicle with those same folks is slim to none. You got to get in another car, right? You got to get in a vehicle that's
Got to
going to the
get in another
destination
car.
that
Yes.
you're trying to get to, right? And so I think it's three practical ways that we can start this process. Okay. Number one is we got to do an audit.
Okay.
It's basic as the old school Franklin T, right? You write the good in one column and the bad in the other. What environments, what actions, what activity, what behavior, and you got to be open, honest, and transparent with yourself, right? We can lie to everybody else, but we can't lie to ourselves. And we got to honestly see where are we at in these two categories, right? What are the things that are really we're killing it in life, like we feel really encouraged by, and what are the things that we do that we're not so happy about, right? Whether it's that late night snack, whether it's the overspending during holiday, we got to be honest about that, okay? Because the second piece is we then have to bring awareness to those things, right? So first we do the audit to identify them, and then we become consciously aware of what these things are and how we're going to improve them. Okay. And then third, we then assess new actions to the areas that we want improvement upon. So to Mike's point, if when I look at it and I say, man, I got to be honest. I love my sister to death, but oftentimes when I talk to her, she's super negative.
Mm,
Every time I come with this new idea, she's shutting me down. She's reminding me of how we grew up. She's reminding me that that's never worked for anybody in our family. I love her, but I got to love her differently in this season, right? I have to
yeah.
limit the amount of time that her and I talk. And to Mike's point, I got to go find the people that believe what I believe and start talking to more people like that more frequent, right? To continue to foster and help build this new belief system that I want to take hold of. Um, And we got to be honest with ourselves in every area. If for whatever reason I can't get out of consumerism, then I gotta read some new books. I gotta understand some new information. I have to possibly even talk to a therapist. Maybe there's something deep-seated rooted in me that I find validation in things that I purchase, right? That
Mm,
there's a need for this gratification. So listen, by the way, to Mike's point, this stuff hurts.
mm.
You can't spell truth without hurt,
Yeah.
right? And so, but if you want to get better, see, here's what I believe. I believe that nothing hurts worse than being stuck somewhere you don't belong.
Mm,
The pain of growth and the pain of change is far better than the pain of staying the same. Because at least I'm making effort towards something, right?
right.
The pain of staying the same and being stuck in a place that you've outgrown is far worse than anything else. This is when we turn to addiction. This is when we turn to all these types of distractions to distract us from the life we don't want instead of just doing the thing to create the life that we do. Because there's going to be pain either way. So choose your heart. Okay. And so, I just think that those three things, Mike, actionable and practical, do an audit, bring awareness, and then assess new actions to those areas where you find weakness, can be critical for everybody as you starting to develop your goals going into 2025, or even for those of you that have them already to revisit them and say, was this just something else that I was trying to add on because it seemed like a good idea? Where am I really at on this stuff? Right? Like,
Yeah.
am I truly that person yet that can do that? Like, can I really go do 5 deals this year? And if I do go do 5 deals this year, can I keep doing it in the way that I'm doing it to where I kind of look at my buy box when I get around to it? It's not a
Mm,
planned event on my calendar. It's not a scheduled daily task at 8 a.m. every day, or before I go to work at 6:30, I look at my buy. Like, if it's not a planned event, then the results will be random just as much as your activity is, right? So anything that we're serious about, we have to be intentional about, and we have to create the capacity for the content. So
yeah.
buying 5 properties this year, what does that look like? How many offers do you need to submit in your particular market to get one accepted? And then is your market giving you enough looks on a week in and week out basis to even make that goal attainable? Because saying that we're going to buy 5 deals in a market where we got to submit 40 offers to get one accepted, and there's only 20 new ones on the MLS, then how do you ever going to hit that? You're not, right? It sounds good, but it's not tangible. It's not practical. And so we got to trust the data. We got to measure what we want to accomplish. And then we have to create space for it for the daily discipline of movement toward that goal.
Love that. Love that. We've got our first question. I love it when people ask questions. Trey better raise his hands, which means he's going to ask. Let's go, buddy. Oh, I can't hear you. Why can't I hear?
We don't have you on audio, buddy.
Oh, he's off mute too. Let's try again. Nope.
How about
Oh,
now?
there he is.
There
There
you
he
Okay, cool.
is.
Great. Thank you. Sorry about that. Yeah, Brian, big fan of all your videos. You have a lot of very quotable stuff that I
Thank
share
you.
with my friends to help, it's like that audit, like seeing how they react to it.
Thank you. I
My
appreciate
question
it.
for you oh, thank you. Is there a quote, prayer, or verse that you go through every day to help you motivate you to keep you going or get you past somewhere that you're stuck?
That's really, really, really good. So, I'm wired a little bit different, as I believe Mike is. I don't need motivation. I think the pain of staying the same is so like prevalent for me that that's my all-time motivator. Like I never need motivation. Very seldom do I listen to even anything motivating. I think oftentimes I look for inspiration rather than motivation. Motivation to me is like caffeine. It wears off eventually, right? So I'm looking for something to sustain me. So being clear about vision is important to me. And I think having clear vision allows me to get up and do the daily disciplines even when I don't feel like it. So I think that vision becomes more important than even motivation, quite honestly, because what happens is if we're not clear about our yes, then it's very difficult to what we say no to. It's hard to get rid of those friends when you don't know what direction you're really headed, right? Then you would almost feel like, well, I get rid of them, I'm gonna be lonely. And it's like, well, maybe in this season, lonely is better depending on what your vision is for your life. So I think one of the things, and that's why we got to have this honest audit, is understanding and setting clear vision. Because when you get clear about what your yes is, it becomes much easier to say no, right?
Mm.
Everybody's going on a trip, and it's like, well, no, I said I need to save 20 grand like quarter one. If I go on this trip and spend five, I'm not going to save 20. So then you just have to put your stake in the ground and have your non-negotiables. But that only come. So what happens is when we leave ourselves open to just kind of going through life day to day and we don't have clear vision and set goals, then you're susceptible to all these distractions seeming like good ideas when they're not, right? Because even distractions look like opportunity.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Did that help at all?
No, that helps.
Okay.
It's one of those where it's like, yeah, motivation is probably the not the right way to say it, but just ways to keep the vision going, or ways to
Yeah.
keep, because you have a lot of great verses that you bring in, and it kind of is like, oh, that's powerful. And so it's just that's
Let me
just
ask
what I was
Brian a
thinking more.
different question. Brian,
Okay.
you probably have a list of your favorite verses or
Okay.
passages. I'm gonna guess. Why don't you share two or three of the ones that you could just recite off the top of your head that are the most meaningful to you and why?
Okay. So Matthew 6:33. Seek ye first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added. The the context to that verse is it's a lot of context to it, but I'll keep it short. The bottom line is that most times in society today, we're seeking stuff. We're seeking transactions. We're always thinking about how are we going to make money. The scripture is telling us that if we seek ye first his kingdom and his righteousness, then all these things will be added. So, how do you seek the kingdom of God? Well, God sent Jesus as a servant leader. So, our job in the marketplace is to serve people, right? Serve people. And as you serve people and you serve your assignment on a day in and day out, this is part of my assignment today, right? I'm here to serve y'all I'm gonna leave on empty, right? As I serve my assignment, then God is telling me that all these things will be added. I don't have to look to sell anything. I don't have to come here with any kind of ulterior motives. I'm literally here pouring into you guys to try to help you become the best version of yourselves. And by virtue of that, God is saying, hey, don't worry about the stuff. I'm gonna take care of that part. Right. So I love that one. Okay. Matthew 6:33. Um, Probably the moniker of my life, I would say, is Colossians 3:23, which is do all your work as if you're doing it for the Lord, not for man's approval. Um, that one is a daily reminder of playing all out. Right? The more successful you become, the more you can get away with. Okay. Unfortunately, even for those that aren't successful, still try to get away with a ton. And whether you hate your boss, whether you hate your job, whether you despise the season that you're in, the scripture is saying that if you do all your work as if you're doing it for the Lord, not for man's approval, then he will give you a reward and an inheritance. See, I know that people are always going to fail me because people going to people, right? We're fallible. That's just what it is. Like people are here to let each other down. That's just what it is, right? You find some that let you down less than others, but ultimately that's just who we are. And so if I put the onus on myself as working hard for people that will disappoint me, then I'm probably gonna have some limitation to how far I'm gonna go in that. But if I know that I'm working for something greater than that, I'm working for the one who created me and he gifted me in such a way to allow me to serve people and help people, then I got to steward over that gift, regardless of how I feel for the day, right? So, as I said in the past, maybe I could have got away with just a one-liner email, right?
Mhm.
That would have sufficed, but it wouldn't have been as excellent as me adding the other two, three sentences for context, right? Those seem like small things, but I promise you, they add up into a big thing if they go unchecked. Because how you do anything is how you do everything, right? So if you start cutting corners here and you skimp over here just because it's easier and you felt like that will start to grow into a bigger issue. You know what I mean? So I'm constantly checking myself like, dang, I could have went a little bit further with that. I could have did a little bit better on that one. You know, I probably was a little off with them. Prime example. So at the health club I go to, there's an orthopedic surgeon on one side, and then there's the health, I mean the fitness stuff on the other side. So when they opened up the medical side, the parking lot, they needed someone out there to kind of direct to tell people only the people going to see the orthopedics park over here and right. So I was actually going to physical therapy, and so I pulled up in the lot and I saw the lady who was out there, the attendant, and I was already on one. Okay. And so she comes over to the car and she was like, you know, all right, do you have an appointment here? It was one of those, right? And I'm like, yes, I have an appointment, right? So nobody was around. It was just her and I, right? The next day I'm walking to actually go work out. And I felt the conviction of God. He was just like, go apologize to that lady, right? I go over, I said, ma'am, I don't even know if you remember this, but yesterday I was really short with you. I shouldn't have been that way. It was no reason for me to treat you that way. You were only doing your job. I appreciate the job that you're doing, et cetera. And she was just so taken aback that I even took the time to do that, right? I'm not saying this to break my arm and pat myself on the back. I'm saying this is Colossians 3:23. Do all your work as if you're doing it for the Lord, not for man's approval. By man's standard, I was justified in having a bad day and being short with the lady that was aggravating me. But I had to go and correct that, right? Because imagine the lady that's standing out in Florida, whether it's 90 degrees or 45 and raining, that's her job every day. Imagine how much that's got to suck, right?
Mm.
And to even approach people and have to do this as a part of her job. And so I don't know. I could keep going. But does that add some color like those
Abs-
two?
Yeah, that's amazing. So, one of the things I want, let's do podcasts. You're going to bring out your podcast here in January, right around the corner, right?
Oh, it's rolling. We launched
It's
it
rolling.
we launched it 4 or 5, 6 weeks ago.
Okay, okay. My
Yeah,
bad. What is the
Believers in Biz is the podcast. It's short for Believers in Business. And
right?
we've been getting great feedback. So appreciate all you guys for tuning in and giving us a shout out.
Nice, nice. So I will make sure we do that. Um, one of the things I want to talk about as we kind of get right for 2025 is you brought it up earlier. Lots of us say things that kind of sound good or
Mm-hmm.
maybe feel good,
Mm-hmm.
but there's no oomph behind them, right? There's no follow through. I heard something the other day that National Quitting Day is like January 3rd. Think about that, right? National Quitting Day is January 3rd. That just means most people have given up in freaking 48 hours, right?
Yeah.
72 hours. So, how would you coach someone up? If you want to quote some of the another passage or whatnot, I think it would be helpful to really, and it's back to that audit, right? How do you
Mm-hmm.
go from, hey, this sounds good. I'll tell my friends this. I'll get some social media props and blah, blah, blah to you're going to get past January 3rd. Like, how do you really make sure there's I don't know if it's a why or whatnot. Help me translate, sounds good to, hey, this is going to happen.
Yeah, I think practically speaking, to your point, Mike, the audit is the tangible,
Okay.
practical process, right? But going even a step before that, okay, there's this principle of be do have, okay?
Mm,
And it's just the way that God set the world up. And it was the first thing that he told humans is that he wanted us to be fruitful, do multiply, have dominion. That was the
mm,
process. That was the order, right? That he spoke to his most prized creation, being us, was to be fruitful, do multiply, have dominion. Well, a fruit is is something that has a seed within itself,
okay.
right?
Yep.
So that would be true for us as humans. We have a seed within ourselves.
Mhm.
And our lot in life is to take this seed of creativity that's been put in us and make things manifest on the outside of us to show people that we're operating in our gifts, right? This is what you've done with One Rental at a Time and so many other things in your life, right? As well as others that's on this chat with us. And so I say all that to say this. Part of the problem as a society is that we want to do and have, but we forget about the be part.
Hmm.
So the reason why things don't work for people when they set these tangible, practical steps in place is because they haven't become the person to do the thing yet.
Hmm.
So the best thing that we can be doing is be becoming. We have to always be becoming the version of ourselves that can do the thing, that can have the stuff. But social media and everything else want us to shortcut and focus on having or focus on doing, but not focus on becoming. So part of the reason why people stay stuck is they keep doing more of what's already not working, thinking that if they
Yeah.
just work harder at it, it's going to work for them. But it's not. They need to become the person of which said thing can work for at a higher level and do things at a higher level to get a higher output, not do more of a lower level to get a higher output. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So how do you
Really,
be
really makes sense.
becoming? Well,
Yeah.
you got to be in school, right? Prime example, right? You guys are in a great place. We have to continuously um, evolve ourselves from an intellectual perspective, from a relational perspective, from an understanding perspective, from a wisdom perspective. We have to continue to become. Did you know, Mike? They say that the average college graduate reads a total of three more books in their entire lifetime.
Oh my
College graduate.
gosh.
College graduate.
Wow.
So that tells me that we're okay with school, corporate America institutionalizing us, and we're willing to do whatever it is within the constructs and the framework of that institution. But then we become adults and we never institutionalize ourselves. We never book time on our calendar for us to read an audio or read an ebook or listen to an audio book, right? Why can't we do that for ourselves? Because we don't understand that getting out of college was just the start of your learning. If you're done with college by 25 and you live to be 75, you think your learning stopped when you got out of university. But for most people, it does. And statistically showing, the average person reads three more books after college. So for 50 years of your life, if you live to be 75, you've only read three more books.
Not
And
okay.
then we wonder why there's a 99% and a 1%. There's no mystery behind that because the one percenters are investing in themselves. They're buying coaching and consulting. They're constantly reading more books. They're constantly immersing themselves in new information and new environments that make them uncomfortable so that they can grow. So the reason why Mike people fall off at January 3rd is because they're checking the box. They haven't become the person to do the thing yet.
Yeah. I love that. We want to make sure we got your podcast spelled correctly. It's Believers,
Mm-hmm.
N as the letter N,
Mm-hmm.
Biz,
Yep.
B-I-Z.
Yep. Trey better nailed it.
Hey, see, we got some good people here that are willing to research stuff. Uh,
By the way,
so,
for those that's listening, just let us know in the chat if any of this is helpful or making sense. I know you guys haven't had questions, but at least let us know if we're somewhere in the stratosphere of helping y'all right now.
yeah, let's show Brian some love. He's here usually for a half hour. He's giving us a full hour today. He's got a lot of stuff he could be doing, but he's choosing to give us everything he has. He's going to leave empty, as I heard him say earlier. I thought that was pretty
Yes,
cool.
sir. Yes,
So
sir.
Brian, there's a country song. There's a country song that says, basically says, hey, if you're going through hell, keep going, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't stop. Don't live there. And I really want to kind of orient to folks. There's a lot of people on this wealth journey. You've heard me say this. I think you've even said this. The first 5 years suck, right? You haven't had the snowball effect. You haven't learned some of the lessons yet. So why don't you kind of lead us down the way of recognizing that there are some hard days, but it gets better. Why don't you encourage folks to keep the head down and all of that?
Yeah, there's scripture, right? So Romans 8:28 says that all things work together for the good of those um that have been called by the Lord according to his purpose, okay? Which is all of us, okay? That everything good or bad in your estimation is happening, scripture is saying that it's all working for your good, though. And the problem is that, you know, many of us want success to happen so quickly, but myself is amongst others, I've had seasons where I experienced quick success, but it was the worst thing that could have happened for me.
Mm,
See, a lot of the time we talk about how we have to fail our way to success, but we don't talk enough about how success causes failure. When you have success too soon and you don't quite know how you got to that point, then that success is now going to cause failure because you don't know how you got there, so you have no idea how to sustain it, right? We had many years ago in our coaching business, we had back-to-back $1 million years, and I couldn't replicate it, right? Like it was just the timing was great, the product was phenomenal, but the reality was, right, after looking into it, the issue was we weren't measuring our marketing.
mm,
And in any business, if you run out of leads to sell to, you're not going to make money, right? That's just a fundamental. So what happens is having success too soon sometimes negates you getting the fundamentals dialed in. So the reason why it's better to have, slow to no growth initially is so that you can get the fundamentals dialed in. It's all working for your good. Okay. Which is why I don't believe in go talk to 100 people and get 100 no's. That's stupid to me, right? That's a poor use of time and energy. Like, I want to go talk to 100 people and I want to get 70 yeses, right? Why? Because 30 of them probably just weren't my client. But for the 70 that were, I want to treat them as people and not numbers. I'm not taking a timeshare approach. I'm not talking to 1,000 people to try to close 100 today, right?
mm,
I want to genuinely understand what is the need of my potential client, and I want to sell and serve them the thing that best suits them, right? And I think, Mike, the problem with society today is it's like telling everybody just to rush, rush, rush to get some type of output, even if a negative one, when it's like, no, talk to 10 people and evaluate, man, okay, I told these three people the same thing. What did you tell them that made them not want to go along with whatever it is that you presented to them? Right? That's data. And we should be looking at data far earlier in the process so that we can dial things in much sooner in the process and we can have success much earlier in the process.
yeah, I like that. Uh, I don't, have you ever spoken with Graham Stephan, Brian?
I have not.
So I've spoken with Graham Stephan a couple of times, been to lunch with him, so I know him probably better than most.
Hmm.
And Jack puts this comment in his quote, and I know Graham, and he really truly believes this, or at least I don't know if he believes it, he fears it. Uh, Graham, with all his success, really does fear losing it all, right? Even though I would argue he built it the right way, brick
Hmm.
by brick, right? He's been doing it for, I don't know, 10 years or whatever. What do you talk, help someone, what would you tell someone if you had 5 minutes with Graham and you wanted to talk to him and you heard that, he's fearful about losing it all. What would be some advice? And if you want to ask a question to maybe get better,
Yeah.
go for it. But
Yeah.
what
I'm a firm believer that the best answer is a good question.
okay.
So the first thing I would ask Graham is, why does he feel like that? Because the empirical data would suggest that he's
Yeah,
successful, that his methodologies are tried and true. So so what I'm looking at, Mike, because I know that becoming is the most important metric that we don't measure.
right.
I want to find out in his heart, why does he feel like that? Because the data would suggest that he should not feel that way. There's something that happened to him along the way that's induced some type of trauma in his life that
Yeah.
has planted a seed of doubt that's made him feel that way.
Yeah, it's really odd because when I speak with Graham, I think first and foremost, what I know about Graham Stephan is whatever he focus on, he becomes the best at it.
Hmm.
And whether that's what most people see today, YouTube, 4 million subs, iced coffee hour over 1 million, whatever it is. But I interviewed Graham Stephan on this channel. And if you look at that interview, he was equally excited talking about fish coral. Like he was 14 years old, hated going to school, but he just got into coral, like for fish. And he could go on it for hours. Like whatever he focuses on becomes his rabbit hole and everything else goes away.
Yeah,
Right. He has a unique gift to like laser focus on something. But that also means he misses the rest, right? There's no balance.
sure. Because if you're
Um,
in focus, you're out of balance.
correct. Yeah.
Right? Whatever you're in focus on, you're out of balance everywhere else. And also, what you focus on expands. So that's why he does well, because the more that you can have tunnel vision and
Oh
focus on
yeah.
one thing, that thing will expand, which is why this whole farce of seven different streams of income is goofy. You got to get dialed in on one and then let that
Yes.
be the catalyst to feed other investments. Seven different streams of income shouldn't be seven different jobs. It's different streams of income that you've been able to spin off from the one main one because you focused on it long enough that it expanded in such a way to allow you to do so.
Yeah, this goes to Jack's second point in this video, and I think that you just hit it on the head. Is and again, why Graham is special in my opinion is because he can stay laser focused on a single lane, out of focus elsewhere, longer than any human alive.
Yeah,
Right, even me. Right, he can just and his cycle time to improving is like quick,
for sure.
which in his chosen area. But a lot of people, probably myself included, we can get distracted or diversify and then we lose focus on things. And that's really what I saw for myself in 24 is you know I tried to do too many things and then nothing went how I would have expected. So
Mm.
it's interesting to think about.
Yeah, no, I think that's true for me as well, Mike. 2025 is going to be a year of more narrow focus,
Yeah.
right? Helping business owners, coaches, and consultants, and really focusing on the Believers in Business podcast and our Believers in Business community. Those three all it's the same thing, just in three different iterations, if you will. You know what I mean? So that's going to be my ecosystem in 2025.
Yeah. So Jack has a question. Hopefully I phrase this okay. So Jack has said a couple of times in school community, like the forum posts, community. I think it says it's supposed to be community is unity, I
Hmm.
think is what it's supposed to
Hmm.
be. How does that hit? How does that land? What do you think?
Yeah, I think you got to surround yourself with people that's of similar thought, of similar belief. Um, you know, I just think of a passage that comes to mind. I think, don't quote me on this. I think it's First Corinthians 15:3 or something like that. And it says, "Bad company corrupt good character."
Bingo.
Right? Bad company
Yes.
corrupts good character. And so it's not in the context that most would think. The bad company he's referring to give context is that the Church of Corinth was split. There was half of them that believed in the death and burial of Jesus Christ. There was another half that believed in the death, burial, and resurrection. And
Mhm.
so what he argued both sides, and he gets down to this point in his letter, and he says, if you don't believe in the death, burial, and resurrection, then why don't we just YOLO? Right? Why don't we just live on our own terms like YOLO? You only live once. And then that's when he says, be careful because bad company corrupt good character. So what he's saying is that if you hang around enough people that you aren't equally yoked with in terms of outlook on life, outlook and perspective, belief system, these people become bad people for you because then their belief can start bleeding into yours, and now that's corrupted your character. So,
Yeah.
to I think it was Jack's point, um, it's everything to be in community with the right people because everybody else who's not aligned with the direction that you're going can become bad company for you in the season that you're in.
I love that. I mean, that's exactly when I think about trying to run the community one rental at a time, right? The school community, my job, if you want to call it a job, is to make sure I attract good people and I get rid of bad people, right? I've had to kick out, I don't know, so far, probably only two or three, I think three people because they were marketing this or that or hitting people up for crypto coins or whatever, right? And as our community grows, I'll have to do that more. But that's kind
Yeah.
of my job, right? Is to find go-givers who are going the same direction and to remove, right, the bad characters, right? I'm no longer the most active poster, which is what I love about the community. I'm also attracting people that have experiences that I don't have, right?
Yeah.
Right now, looking for out of state and short and midterm rentals. Because, what I'm really getting comfortable saying about our school community is it's going to be Bigger Pockets 1.0, right? Before Bigger Pockets was a publishing house and sold, and I was I worked. I don't know. I should say I worked for it because it was free, but I talked with Josh Dorkin. I wrote for the blog all because we were just go giving. Back when it was Jay Scott, before Jay Scott was him, before Tom Harrant did his thing, and all these other people.
Mm.
It's it's fun to watch people like Jack or Mark or Jen or all these other folks who just give because they're right. They're good people, right? They're going that way, and they want other people to get in the car. It's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just necessary, right? It's necessary to be in community and to one understand where you are. So one of the problems with isolation is that you can be doing is you can be doing worse than you think you are, or you could be doing better than you think you are. So a lot of the time by getting in the community, it's not because you're comparing yourself because comparison is the thief of joy. But you do need to be consciously aware of in this thing called whatever I'm doing, when I look at my peers, how are they doing and what they're doing, and how are they doing what they're doing? Right?
Mhm.
That's part of that growth and evolution that only takes place, and in my opinion, happens at a more rapid rate if you are in community in this melting pot of people. It's part of the reason why we stopped doing one-on-one coaching many years ago, because while people think that it's more valuable to get one-on-one coaching, the truth is they learn more in a group setting.
Oh, amen.
Right. They
Yes.
learn now, it may be more uncomfortable for them in a group setting, but the truth is they learn more in a group setting. So you got to get out your shell and raise your hand, right? Like Trade Better did. In a group setting, you got to be able to put that thing in the air, because guess what? That's how opportunities happen in life, is by putting that thing in the air. You have no idea when you're in a group that you may say something that triggers something in somebody else, and that be the conduit for all type of great things to happen in your life. But so we got to get out of this. We got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that happens
Yeah.
in a group. That growth happens in a group. And some of the best relationships might have come by virtue of me being in groups.
Yeah. Folks, we probably got one more time for one more question. If you want to raise your hand or put it in the comments, we will go until just about 10 o'clock. I do have a 10 o'clock interview, so I will have to leave this, unfortunately, just before 10. But I want to talk about that raising your hand. One of the things that worked extremely well at our first event in Vegas and will be a key part of number two is the microphone, right? Brian, you spoke last year. You went on, had a great talk for half an hour, and then you took questions for the
Mhm.
audience, right? They lined up and they
Sure.
asked questions, right?
Sure.
It's just, you've been to dozens of events, if not hundreds of events. Nobody does that, right? It's
No.
get up, it's talk, and then they look to find you in the room if they can.
The only place that I had been, Mike, that I experienced that, and you will be in great company, was Vid Summit the year before.
There you
When
go.
I was in Vid Summit in Texas, and that's for YouTube for you guys. That's the biggest YouTube conference that they have annually, and they would have Mr. Beast talk for 30 minutes, and then they would line, but it wouldn't be as extensive as the questions that were able to be asked. They may take
Yeah.
like three questions, but they had microphones set
Yeah.
up in the crowd, which I thought was cool. I'd never seen that before outside of your event, Mike. But no, to me, that's what made the conversation, right? Like
Yes.
regardless of whatever 15 minutes that we had planned that we wanted to talk about, um, the people in the audience that were brave enough to get up to ask their questions really blessed everybody. It wasn't just, see, that's the other part. Like it wasn't just that they got their question answered. So many questions of others who were thinking it, processing it, or maybe not even thinking about it, were able to get questions answered for themselves, and even have some foresight for even things that they didn't even understand that they needed to know, right? That's the see, we know what we know. We know what we don't know. The most expensive area of our lives is the part that we don't know that we don't know.
Hmm.
That's the
Yeah.
area of our lives that's called ignorant, right? Not to be condescending, ignorance is the absence of knowledge. So the areas that we don't know that we don't know, we don't have the capacity to even know that we don't know this, is the most expensive area of your life. You want to make more money, you need to feel that area of your life because you know what you know and you know what you don't know. So you're consciously aware of those two things, which has only got you this output so far. When you start filling in that space of ignorance, that's the biggest opportunity in your life. That's why we got to continue to become so that we can know more, because if we know more, we can do more and have more.
Yeah. Love that. Love that. Remember, folks, probably got time for one question. If you want to raise your hand or put it in the comments, else we'll just keep moving forward. Brian, why don't we kind of wrap this up for us? Wrap up. I'll ask it this way: how was 2024 for you, and what are you doing different in 25?
Uh, 2024 was interesting for me. Okay. Particularly because um, we've had our real estate coaching program for almost 7 years now. It's just love all the students, love the success, all the above, the growth that's happened on both parts. Um, I've been called into a transition, and it started like mid to late 2024, and it's everything that I just articulated. It's more to start helping business owners, coaches, and consultants grow and scale their businesses online, helping more the body of believers and the non-believer um, get better at living a level 10 life in their faith, their fitness, their finance, their freedom, and their family life. So it's different. It's stuff that I was doing behind the scenes all the time that now God is calling me to the forefront to do. And because of that, I got to let some stuff go. Right. And so that's my primary focus this year. My avatar is changing and it's still serving, but it's just in a different capacity.
Love that. So tell us what they can find in Believers in Biz podcast. What is the avatar? Who needs to check it out? Who are you gonna have on the channel? What is it?
Yeah, so business owners, aspiring business owners, right? Um, who are either looking to or already in business. The whole essence behind it. So even when I coach real estate, I'm like you, Mike. I talk about the game within the game, right?
Mhm.
Everybody knows the basic blocking and tackling. It's the nuance that really makes you successful or not. So the whole premise behind the the podcast is me sharing some of my biblical business principles that I adopt every day in my business, but also showing you how to live a level 10 life in every area that's important in your life. Because as I mentioned earlier, we talk about failure being a catalyst to success, but we don't talk about how success causes failure. Well, it's not that it just causes failure financially. There's been seasons in my life where I was killing it, making millions of dollars, but my marriage was suffering, or my health was suffering, right? Maybe I was overweight 20, 30, well, 60 pounds at one point. I lost
Whoosh.
18 years ago and kept that off. Um, or didn't have my financial house in order. So it's helping, or your family life, right? You claim that you wanted to quit your job so that you have all this time back, but then your family still see less of you than they did when you worked in corporate America. So I think by virtue of that, many people have just acquiesced with this idea that living a 4 or 5 is just normal. And it is. But do you want a normal life or you want an abnormal life, right? Do you want an average life or do you want an above average life? So I'm helping people to put frameworks together in their lives to live a one percenter life, and it's very possible with some intentionality behind it. So that's the essence of the podcast.
Well, Brian, you're amazing. Thank you for giving us a half hour each and every week. I learned something from you. You are a friend and family. We'll see you in Vegas. Folks, take care. Hopefully you enjoyed this conversation. And thank you for participating, asking questions. Have a great new year,
Appreciate you.
folks.
Appreciate you
Later.
guys.
Bye.